Okay, so in this presentation, I'd like to talk about Next Door, a short story by Kurt Vonnegut Jr. I'll start out with the summary. So we're being presented at the very start of this short story um, by a house separated with a very thin wall with a family on each side. And there's the Hagers on one of the sides and the Leonards on the other side. And the story starts out with this guy Paul, the kid in the Leonard family, and he's going to be home alone because his parents are going out, and they are going to watch something which is not suitable for minors such as Paul. And Paul is going to be okay. He's like just going to be on an adventure, being home alone. It's just kind of growing up. They're arguing whether or not he should like are old enough is old enough to be home alone. And Paul hears the neighbors fighting when he's home alone, and he is listening to this radio in the background, very gamely, and like when the fighting is getting worse and they're like yelling louder and louder, Paul calls the radio in like in a way to try to prevent this fight from going even further and more crazy. And he thinks that Mr. and Mrs. Hager are the ones on the other side of the wall, but it's actually not. But I'll get into that later. He hears some gunshots and he gets very frightened, and he hides under his what's it called? He hides in his bed, and the police shows up outside of the house and is like asking if everything's okay, and he sees that Mr. Hager is okay. He was afraid he was dead, and Mrs. Hager arrives in a car. So she was obviously not the one in the house with Mr. Hager. So perhaps it's a mistress, someone who Hager is seeing besides his wife. And Paul's parents returns home and asks if Paul is okay, and he says he's okay. And his mother finds something in his pocket when they're getting him ready to sleep, and it's like some money in a bowl. And so the characterization of the different persons in the short story is Paul. So Paul is an ordinary 8-year-old boy, but the problem is that he's being kept away from growing up, and he's described as being very tall and thin and has a radiant sweetness. And like judging from his behavior, he's like he has a very curious personality, because he's like listening to what's happening on the other side, not just like taking care of himself. So, and then there's Paul's parents, and they are like unconsciously overprotective. So they're doing him a disfavor. Oh, yeah. And then there's the development of the story and the expectations I had, like how it would develop, and like I didn't expect that it would be Mrs. and not Mrs. Hager on the other side of the wall. So that was like kind of a big surprise for me, and the fact that Mr. Hager wasn't dead when he turned up at the door. Those were the the two largest surprises in the short story. And the comparison of the Leonards and the Hagers. So the Leonards are is a very harmonic family, and it's stands in contrast to the Haggers or their home, which is very disharmonic because a lot of bad stuff is happening there, it seems like. And careful contra callous, because like the Leonards thinks a lot about their child, and we don't know if the Haggers do have a child or whether they not don't have a child. But yeah, they don't think about the possibility of like a small kid being just on the other side of the wall, and it's just kind of dramatic to shoot with guns inside. So yeah, and like it seems like the Leonards are the harmonic and careful, and this guy, his father, is of course also faithful, and he doesn't have a mistress or someone he's seeing and loving with besides from his wife. And the same doesn't go for the Haggers or Mr. Hagger, because he's obviously seeing someone else, but we can't tell whether or not he's in a marriage with Mrs. Hagger. So the realism or the lack of same in this short story, it kind of misses some explanations, like how did this this ball of money end up in Paul's pocket? That was like kind of a big question for me. So I wonder how that happened. I suppose it's some kind of payment for not telling the police anything. And despite that, it's quite realistic. Like, there's nothing supernatural. There's no superheroes or like crazy magic stuff. Okay, so in the ending, Paul is beginning to grow up, and his parents cannot keep hold of him anymore. And I like to refer to this quote in the short story. And his father says that he's not a little boy, he's a big boy, and he's too old to be thinking about fairy princesses. And Paul's mother holds her hands up and says, "Don't rush it, don't rush it." So his father is like seeing that he's actually not a child anymore, and he has survived being home alone. Like, that's quite an achievement as an 8-year-old boy. And yeah, he also like took the money that this man gave him, which was like, it's kind of like bribing. So that's kind of big for an 8-year-old to do. So he's growing up. Yeah. So that was all.